Good afternoon, everyone present here. I, Dr. Manzoor Khan, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, Integral University, on behalf of the entire Faculty of Law, warmly welcomes you all in 30 days interdisciplinary faculty development program on emerging trends in administration of criminal justice system and forensic science. Today, we begin with the first technical session of module 3rd, and the resource person for today's technical session is Dr. Geetu Singh Mam, Associate Professor at Xavier Law School, St. Xavier University, Kolkata, on the topic of understanding crime and criminal behavior. Dr. Geetu Singh has been awarded the doctorate degree in law from the Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University in the year of 2017. She qualified the UGC NET JRF examination in the year of 2009. She has pursued BLLB and LLM from the Department of Law, University of North Bengal, with over 14 years of teaching experience. She served as a professor in charge School of Legal Studies at Babu Banarsi Das University, Lucknow. Dr. Singh also contributed a member of the various academic administrative bodies at Shri Ram Swaroop Memorial University and Babu Banarsi Das University in Lucknow. She has delivered expert lectures and judges many moot court competitions at prestigious law schools in India. Her subject and interest is constitutional law, administrative law, and criminology. Her academic journey began in 2007 at S.K. Acharya Institute of Law, University of Kalyani, West Bengal. She has later joined Hidayatullah National Law University as an assistant lecturer. After qualifying UGC NET examination 2009, she started her tenure at Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University, Lucknow. Following this, she worked at Shri Ram Swaroop Memorial University, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. On 11th November 2020, she joined as professor at School of Legal Studies, Babu Banarsi Das University, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. Now, without taking much time, I would like to invite to our resource person, Dr. Geetu Singh Ma'am. Ma'am, this now over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the long, welcome from me and giving my profile to the audience. So I welcome all the audience. I take this opportunity to thank the head of the Faculty of Law, Integral University, for giving me this opportunity to share my little knowledge on the topic understanding crime and criminal behavior. So I begin with sharing my PowerPoint presentations, which I have prepared just to deliberate on the topic. So if my PPT is visible, I would like a confirmation from any of the participants, because is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Okay, so so I begin with the topic. Now, as the topic is relating to understanding crime and criminal behavior, necessarily we will be talking first on what is crime. Okay, so if in a very legal way, we can define crime as an act which is in violation of a criminal law and for which a punishment is prescribed. The person committing it must have intended to do and must have done so without any legally acceptable defense or justification. So anybody who's asked with the definition of crime would definitely consider it to be either an act which is, or necessarily consider it to be an act which is in violation of criminal law. So from the definition given here, we can find out, or we can ascertain that law is or crime is specifically punished by none other than the state. So it is the state which is punishing the law or the crime, and the state only has the power to define crime. So therefore, every state has its own criminal law codified to define a specific act which constitutes a crime. So hypothetically, we can say that every society has certain criteria or certain determinations to find out whether an act is a criminal act or not. Now, suppose we say that the society one day decides that they would eradicate or eliminate all the criminal behavior only by doing away with the laws which are there, because if the laws are not there, then that would not constitute a crime, and thereby the crime would not be there, and therefore the people will not be said to be doing criminal act. But that's a very very rare chances, or not a fit to be, or an absurd thinking to take away all the laws, because laws are essential for regulating the behavior of a particular individual. So to define crime, it would be very difficult if you do not have specific definition provided by the act. But it is also very true that one definition will not be suitable for to define a crime in every specific situation. So we would see crime in different categories. So if we try to define crime as a moving target, why do I say that crime is a moving target? Why? Because what may be a vice in India today may not be a vice but a virtue outside India. To give you an example, until the Harrison Narcotics Act of 1914 was enacted in the United States, the use or possession or sale of a limited amount of narcotics like heroin and cocaine was allowed in the United States. It was only when the Harrison Act came up that many of the drugs became controlled substance, and thereby their possession became a crime. And because it became a crime, you had a new class of peak criminals who were being created just after the enactment of that act. Similarly, if we take the example in India, Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, which talks about homosexuality, was a criminal act until the Supreme Court has decided in the case of Suresh Kumar Kausal and others versus Nas Foundation that it is in violation of the right to life and personal liberty. So today, if something is a crime, it may not be a crime just because the behavior of a human being or the society accepts that behavior to be a part and parcel of a normal living or normal societal nature. So therefore, we cannot have a specific definition that this is crime. And as now, if to justify this, we can say that if we compare the crime with any scientific phenomena like atoms or gas laws or the laws of the thermodynamics, we see that they have a definite definition, and they are not defined or evaluated differently by scientists all around the globe. They are taken as it is, as defined by a specific scientist and accepted accordingly without any change. They do not depend on their interpretation or their meaning to any local customs or ideological preferences. Therefore, crime in comparison to such scientific phenomena cannot be said to have a definite meaning or a definition. So the phenomena we call crime accordingly keeps moving around, and because it does move around, some of the criminologists have declared it impossible to generalize about what is and what is not a real crime. So what is crime actually? Now, crime may be considered as a subcategory of social harm. What we can say about crime is that what we can say about a crime, or how we can conceive of it and in a very coherent and corresponding manners in the reality, is something which needs to be determined. So definitely a crime is a harmful act which can be placed on a continuum in terms of the seriousness of the harm involved. So crime is nothing but a subcategory of all harmful acts. But all socially harmful acts need not be a crime, and they need not require a regulation. But some socially harmful acts are of such a nature they are deemed to be in the need of regulation. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for the maintenance of peace and order in the society. So, in certain circumstances, it is the criminal law that controls or defines and deals with the acts which are considered to be crime. To give you some example, many of the private wrongs are also socially harmful. If I give you an example like smoking. Smoking is something which is not per se a wrong, if done by the individual privately, not harming the environment or not causing environmental pollution, and if he's not doing it in a public place creating a nuisance. So smoking may not be considered to be a crime per se until and unless it is of such a nature that it affects the public at large by creating a public nuisance or by polluting the environment. So if it does so, then it would be dealt with the heavy hands of the criminal law, otherwise not. So all harmful acts, maybe I do not feel that smoking should be done because it harms not only the smoker but also the passive smoker. But the others may not be having the same kind of feeling. This is the reason because of which we say that crime cannot have a specific definition and it would change according to the time and place. So a crime is a subcategory of harmful act which is considered so socially harmful that they have to come under the authority of the criminal justice system. So these harmful acts, why are they to be dealt with the criminal justice system? They are to be dealt by the criminal justice system because these crimes not only cause a financial harm but also emotional harm is caused to the victim and the society at large. So somewhere or the other we would agree that crime has a harmful effect on the society and therefore it is something which we can say as an harmful act. We would say that crime is beyond social construction. Or there are few stationary core crimes which is accepted universally all over the world. It may be agreed that an act is universally condemned, is not arbitrarily categorized, and is seriously harmed. So, if we consider that murder, assault, rape, theft, such kind of wrongs are crime because it has an effect on the society which is of a greater degree, or universally these cause a harm to the individual and therefore it is accepted as a crime by the people or the society at large. So that there is a core of offenses defined as wrong at almost all times and in almost all cultures. So some of the strongest evidence that these acts are a crime or they support that they are stationary core perspectives of crime because they come from the Interpol, which is International Criminal Police Organization, where the data show that these acts like the murder, assault, rape, and theft are considered as serious crimes in every country. So criminologists call these universally condemned act or crime as mala in se, which is inherently bad. Inherently bad in the sense because it is affecting the society at large. So crime that are time and culture bound are described as mala prohibita because they're bad because they are prohibited. So there are something which are inherently bad, like if you give an example of smoking, then smoking is considered to be an inherently bad act by the society at large. But when we consider in comparison to smoking or some trivial wrongs which is not defined as a specific crime, with the crimes which are specifically defined like crime of murder, assault, theft, and such a nature, they are mala prohibita because they are prohibited by the law. And they are prohibited by the law because the society has recognized it to be something which should not be committed in the society. So, how to be sure that an act is inherently bad? Or how do you identify whether an act is inherently bad or it is just a prohibition? So, when a person has been victimized by such crimes like the mala insane, this evokes a physiological reaction like anger, helplessness, sadness, or which is prohibited by the law, that necessarily affects the society of the psychology of the victim. So, and these offenses like murder, rape, theft, these does not this is not dependent. The psychological reaction is not dependent on the society or the culture, but irrespective of the culture or the society, these kind of wrongs will definitely have some kind of psychological reaction, and therefore it is punishable by law or by custom. So mala and say crimes engage in these emotions not because some legislative body has defined them as wrong, but because they hammer at our deepest primordial instincts. So, if we do not have a specific definition of crime, what actually would we consider crime to be, or how do we determine what is crime? So, most of the criminologists in the present world goes on to define crime not by the definition of the crime, but by the act which is committed by an individual, tracing down the behavior or the root cause of such a behavior or such an act being committed by an individual. So, therefore, we can perhaps say that the problem of defining crime may be avoided by studying the individual who commits the predatory harmful act, regardless of the legal status of the act. So, if we do not look into the definition specifically, but the act which the particular individual has done, then we can find out what kind of act it is, and therefore we can determine whether it's a criminal act or not. So, several eminent criminologists have recently noted that the key to understanding crime is to focus on fundamental attributes of all criminal behavior rather than on specific criminal acts. This is what the criminologists do when they study criminality. So, what is criminality? Criminality is a legal or a scientific term rather than a legal one, and it can be defined independently of any legal definition of crime. So, according to Gottfriedson and Hershey, criminality is a style of strategic behavior characterized by self centeredness, indifferences to the suffering of and needs of others, and low self control. So, this is not something which is dependent on one specific factor, but criminality depends on a multiple factors, which we'll be discussing in our later slides. So, what the present day criminologists believe is that the more a person or an individual is impulsive, he is more likely to find criminality an attractive style of behavior because it can provide an immediate gratification through relatively easy and simple strategy. So, criminality is a shortcut method, which I would put it in my words as criminality is a method which is not accepted by the society to achieve a certain desire. So, whenever you have a desire and you find that to achieve that desire, you need to do a lot of hard work, you find an easier way, and that easier way is generally something which is not accepted by the society and considered to be a wrongful act. So, wherever there's a desire and that desire is not fulfilled, that desire may be in terms of money, it may be in terms of lust, it must be in terms of getting famous. So all these desires, they require certain kind of efforts, and if that effort or the positive effort is not being put, in case a person gets attracted towards a style which would be easy and simple to achieve those things, that then he would definitely have a element of criminality in his behavior. So, criminality is a continuously disturbing trait, such as in criminality, we would include traits like low empathy, low self control, high sensation seeking, and so on, that signals the willingness to use force, fraud, steal it to deprive others of their lives, limbs, or property for personal gain. So, criminal behavior is the product of a systematic process that involves complex interaction between individual, societal, and ecological factors over the course of our lives. So, we can say that criminal behavior is not something which a person is born with. It grows with the person, and it depends on not only one factor, but the criminal behavior depends on a multiple factors like the individual himself, the societal factors, the ecological factors, that is his environment where he is growing up, and everything which is in and around him. So, if we take into consideration the ecological factors, the ecological factors involve interaction between people and their activities in a physical environment. This category includes things associated with the physical environment, such as the geography and topography, crowding, pollution, and recreational opportunities. To give you some example, you find the children living in the slum who are deprived of the basic necessities of life and the place. Not only that, the first thing is that they are growing up in an environment where they lack the fulfillment of the basic necessities of life. Secondly, the place where they stay in is generally surrounded by people who are indulged in criminal activity. Thirdly, those places are very crowded, and the pollution and the environment over there is mostly polluted. These children in the slum areas do not have the opportunity to go to schools or engage in any recreational activities. So overall, when these children, if you see the overall environment in which they are growing up, they tend to become criminals, starting from doing petty criminal offenses, later on indulging into bigger crimes. So these ecological factors can affect how people develop physically and emotionally over their life, as well as the level of hostility, fear, or well being they feel from the moment to moment as they experience, for example, a crowded subway, dark, lonely parking lot, or serene park. So, environment does affect in the growth of the criminal behavior. So, ecological factors also determine what opportunities for crime exist, because they include interaction between people and the ways the physical environment channel those interactions. So, ecological factors are playing a major role in determining the individual's overall behavior. So, the routine activities of people in a physical settings can have important effects on when and where opportunities for crime occur. So, that is one reason where I can give you that a child who is growing up in an area or environment where there are lots of crime may have a greater opportunity to learn to commit crime and get indulged in the commission of crime is one reason. The other reason which we can also say is that the ecology gives you an opportunity to commit crime. Most of the crime like theft or rape are committed in a place which is lonely, where you do not have someone available or someone who could prevent the commission of the crime. So it's not only the developing of the behavior, but also the ecology effects in the commission or providing an opportunity to commit crime. So crime is not possible unless, so though you may have an ecological surrounding, or you may have a place which gives you an opportunity to commit the crime, every crime will necessarily have some kind of motivation where the person or the individual who is engaging or attempting to engage in commission of a crime has to be motivated. He has to have an intention, he has to have a reason, he has to have a thought, a pre-thought that why and how he would be committing a crime. So crime is not possible unless a motivated and able offender converges with the victim or property or illicit substance or behavior in the absence of a capable guardianship. That guardianship may be either a person or or people altogether, or a physical barrier which may prevent the happening of the crime. So ecological factors do affect in the criminal behavior of an individual. So ecology, with ecology, which also has the societal factor into it. We can also see that society at the or the micro level factors which are committing the which are involved in the evolution of the criminal behavior. So the societal or micro level factor deal with systematic interaction between social groups. Societal factor describes the way society is structured. They include such thing as the relative distribution of the population among groups and flows of information, resources, and people between groups. So the society into which a person is born, brought up, into which he interacts, into which from where he learns, that also plays a major role in the development of the criminal behavior. So you have crimes like different kinds of crime depending on the system. A specific crime is prevalent to a larger extent in comparison to any other crime because it is the society or the factors involved which gives you an opportunity to commit that crime. So societal factors encompasses the variety and heterogeneity of social, racial, ethnic, cultural, productive groups, their behavior and beliefs, and economic relationships. So you would find the crime against women to be more in a society where women is always considered to be a subordinate or a weaker section of the society. But where a society is there where the woman is considered to have a upper hand or a respectable position or equal to a male counterpart, then there the crimes may be comparatively less as compared to the society which is more of a patriarchal nature. So I want to say that it's not only the ecology but also the social structure which affects in the commission of or in the development of a criminal behavior in an individual. Though there are many other factors as described by many other schools of criminology, but one would definitely agree that motivation and opportunity, these are two things which actually help in the commission of a crime for an individual who has developed in him a criminal behavior. So individuals actually commit the crime. Why do they commit that? It's not only the ecological or the social factors which must be included for the explanation of crime, but also the individual factors which intervene between them and the criminal act, which has to be taken into consideration to define crime or to know why crime is committed. For this reason, the individual factors which need to be considered is the motivation. So the individual or micro level factors describe how a person becomes motivated to commit a crime. But before we go on to discuss the motivation behind committing a crime, it would be important to discuss another important key component, that is it just the driving force behind our action which makes us commit a crime? Or is it that the motivation is more than what I want, or it includes what I could, or what will it cost me compared to what I think I'll get? And is this right or proper? So, how is the motivation cropping up or motivation developing is more important than having a motivation. So, how is a motivation developing? Is when a person thinks about doing an act, and before doing that act he questions himself that what are the things I want, what would I get, what I can do to get that thing, and what I'm doing is either right or wrong. So once a person is unable to make a proper balance in or what he wants, what he could get, and what he wants he would be getting after doing would cost him. If he cannot make a proper balance and understanding of all these questions, he becomes motivated to commit the crime. So, motivation is the outcome of a process in which a goal is formulated, costs and benefits are assessed, and internal constraints on behavior are applied. So you would first have a goal, and the goal would to achieve something. You would then find out the ways of achieving that goal. And when you decide the ways, you would find out what are the costs you would have to pay for achieving those ends, and what benefit you will get if you successfully commit the act. This is something which is an internal conflict into an individual which he has to overcome. The one who is satisfying himself that even if he's taking a risk, the benefit which he'll get is more than the risk or the cost which he is being paying for committing that act, or then he tends to do a criminal act. So the relative importance of the component of this process may vary from individual to individual, time to time, and situation to situation. So there would be a person who would be able to balance and stop himself from committing the crime, and the other would be one who would be not able to make a correct decision. And this correct decision is in the perspective of the society, because what we consider to be not correct is something which is not accepted by the society at large. So, in other words, sometimes a person's motivation is influenced more by rational decision making, and other times by emotions such as anger, greed, or lust, thus leading him to commit the crime. Similarly, similarly, some people tend to be more motivated by cost to benefit calculation more of the time than others. So mostly people see that if you're paying the cost is less than the benefit which you're getting, then they tend to commit the crime. Okay. So moving forward, so motivation. So by this we cannot say that only motivation is the root cause for the commission of a crime. So once you're prepared and you have a reason for committing the crime, and you have balanced and you have convinced yourself that yes, the commission of this act would not be much risky, or you would be benefiting more than what you would be paying for it, the other requirement for the commission of the crime is opportunity. So only motivation will not help you commit the crime or help an individual commit the crime. You would also require an opportunity. So this opportunity can be backed by ecology, as I told you before. That ecology here in the sense that if you find a lonely place, a place where nobody can stop you from committing the crime, a place where you would not be disturbed or you would have less problems in committing the crime, that would definitely provide you an opportunity to commit the crime. So few researchers today address this opportunity itself and as a influence of motivation. So even if you've decided that if you want to commit a specific act which is a crime, and you do not get an opportunity, your motivation may be subsiding. So motivation, sometimes opportunity gives you a motivation to commit crime, and because you're motivated, you find for an opportunity to commit a crime. So some may be motivated to seek out and exploit criminal opportunities that offer extremely small rewards. Others will commit crimes only when presented with relatively enormous opportunities, and a very few will not commit crime regardless of the rewards. So some criminologists attribute crime to the individuals. So they believe that an individual weighs the pros and cons and make a conscious choice whether or not to commit a crime. Others believe that it is a community's responsibility to ensure that their citizens do not commit crime by offering them a safe and secure place in which to live. Some is certain that some individuals have latent traits that will determine how they will react when put in a certain negative conditions. So, to give you an example, say these children who are growing up in the slum area, being provided with a better environment, with people around them who are more organized, who are into some good works, who are having an opportunity to go to school or engage in recreational activities, definitely the child will grow up in an environment where he would not be inclined more to committing crime but to becoming a better citizen. So environment along with, and the environment which he would be staying in would create a motivation and give him an opportunity to do something better as compared to crime. But this is not always correct, because we know that there are a number of times that people from a respectable, or what you would say, that a respectable community of the society do also commit crime. And that may have other reasons, like this, the psychological factors, the societal factors, the conflict factors, and many other things, or the negative traits which are going on inside them, which would help them to commit the crime. So crime and criminal behavior is not dependent on a specific factor. It has different factors, and it varies with the case to case, time to time, place to place, culture to culture, tradition to tradition. So it cannot be put into a specified or defined category that this is the reason for commission of crime or criminal behavior. So now I would go with the discussion of few cases where you see that, where I would discuss why criminal behavior is one factor which we should now take into consideration when we go on to decide what is crime. So we'll be discussing today a case which is the case of Germany, and the case is of a person whose name is Armin Mewis. So Armin Mewis was a person who was born in German town of Kessel. He was a computer technician, and he led a very lonely childhood. His father was a very stern man and who was largely disinterested in his son. So when his marriage, his father and mother's marriage broke up, Mewis was only 8 years, and he abandoned the family, never to contact them again. The father left the house of the family with Mewis and his brothers staying. He was a lonely child and he had no other person. So Mewis and his mother were staying all alone. Now, after his father left, Mewis was under the guardianship of his mother, and the mother was a very dominant mother. She used to be very strict with Mewis, and she used to take her anywhere where she went. So, Mewis was accompanying his mother in every places where she had been. So, Mewis often felt very lonely, and he had created an imaginary brother whom he called Frankie, and he used to talk to him. And this was the first time when he created his imaginary brother, that he talked about cannibalistic thoughts of his which he couldn't share with his mother. So he had this idea that he told the when he was tried for the murder of a person whom he had committed cannibalism, he told his whole story, and used to say that he used to share with this brother all his feelings, that how he was thinking of having a person with him whom he would kill him and eat him so that he can be with him all through his life. So when Mavis' mother died in 1999, Mavis, he was alone and he had a big mansion to stay, and he started browsing the internet, where he got a platform to chat with people. So he took that opportunity, and in the year 2000, Mavis posted a message in the platform which he had created for chatting with people. He said that he was a very young man, well built at about 18 to 30, and he was looking for someone between the age of 18 to 30 to slaughter him. Several on his message, to the surprise, a number of people had approached Mavis, consenting to be slaughtered by him. So one of the person, whose name was Borg Joes, he even went to Mavis and agreed that he is ready to be slaughtered by Mavis. So when Mavis tried to kill him, he complained that he was feeling ill will and therefore he should be left. On which Mavis left him and he went away. So he was the first victim of Mavis and a failed attempt of killing him so that he can consume him. So the next person whom Mavis met online was a person whose name was Bernard Jochen Brandis. So Brandis was a 43-year-old bisexual engineer, and he had wrote to Mavis saying that he would be agreeing to be eaten by him. So they exchanged several emails, luring emails, discussing the best ways in which they could conduct the whole of the act, and how they would. Brandis would say how he would like to be eaten by Mavis, and how his body could be used after he kills him. Brandis even suggested that his skull can be used as an ashtray after the act. So after a chat and everything, and they both agreed, Brandis he went to meet Mavis in 2001 with the agreement that they would meet, and Mavis would be allowed to kill him and eat him. So Brandis went to Mavis's house in the year 2000, and after having sex, they went into the act which they agreed for. Before going into all these things which they had decided, Brandis swallowed a lot of sleeping pills. He even drank some cough syrup so that he would not be having much pain. And then they went to the bathroom, and Mavis he amputated the pet, tried to eat it raw. But when they couldn't chew it, Mavis tried to fry it with the garlic, and they consumed it. So there was a blood all over the bathroom, and Brandis was in pain, and because the blood was going on, he was in very much pain. After 9 hours of pain, Mavis decided to kill Brandis by stabbing him into his neck several times. So they had when Mavis was caught. Why? How was Mavis caused? After all this had got over, Mavis had chopped the body of Brandis and kept it in the fridge, and he used to eat it. And again, after a few years, he gave an advertisement on the internet about the same kind of proposal. And there was another person who came through it, and he then informed the police, through which the police could track Mavis and caught him for the murder of Brandis. Mavis agreed before the police that he had committed cannibalism on Brandis, and he said in his interviews that he enjoyed eating the death, and was learning about the body because he chopped off and he ate the body of the parts of the body for 10 months. So the entire process of this cannibalism was recorded by both Brandis and Mavis. And this recording was used by the police to impose a liability on Mavis. So this is the case. Finally, on 30th January 2024, Mavis was convicted of manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. This case of German had a number of issues cropped up because this case was again reopened, and on the ground that Mavis should be given a higher punishment because it was not a manslaughter, but it was a case of murder. But the question which revolves around this case is that can there be a liability of murder when a person is consenting to be killed by some other person? So there was lots of controversies revolving around this case, and finally the argument supported for the conviction of the murder of Mavis for the conviction of murder. So what happens is this kind of cases, there's no such definition of voluntary cannibalism where a person himself agrees that he should be cut into pieces and be eaten by the other persons. So cannibalism is something which is a wrong. But when a person voluntarily agrees to be eaten by other, whether that can be considered to be a crime was not a defined law. Whereas in Germany, if you see, you will see that in Germany, the lawyers had discovered that cannibalism, in fact, was legal in Germany, and therefore Mewis was not initially convicted for or sentenced for murder, but or cannibalism, but for manslaughter. Now, if you see the context, in this context, few cases in India, if every one of us remember the case of Nithari murder case, that was a serial murders of young girls where in Greater Noida, where this person, the owner of the house and Mr. Kohli and his servant used to stay in a big mansion, and the servant used to stand on the gate of the house, and he used to ask young girls crossing by who were going to school by foot to come to his house for household work. So he used to call the girls inside, and he used to kill them, and he used to eat the part of the bodies from those dead bodies, and he used to throw the rest of him. So when he was caught, the court had gone on to decide whether he was suffering from some mental illness. To the surprise, this was a case where the court has appointed a psychiatrist and to see what is the mental status of the servant, and they found out that he was mentally sound, and he did not suffer from any mental illness. And what he did, he was doing it knowingly, and what he was doing was something which was called as necrophilia, where a person he commits a rape on the dead body of the person, and because he had this psychological problem or this disease of necrophilia, that he was luring the children, girls, young girls, and killing them and then committing rape on them. After that, he used to cut the body parts and cook and eat it. So both these instances, we see that necrophilia at the present day in India is not a defined crime, and it is not defined in the Indian Penal Code as a specific crime. What can be, in such cases, what can be considered as to be a crime is brought under the section 297 of the IPC. 297 of the IPC makes it an offense to trespass on a burial ground or to cause indignity to corpus. So it reads, if you read the section, it says, whoever, with the intention of wounding the feelings of any person or of insulating the religion of any person, commits any trespass in any place of the performance of funeral rites, or as a depository for the remaining of the dead, or offers any indignity to any human corpus, shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year, or with fine, or both. So the doing an indignity to a corpus is a crime under section 297 of the IPC. But this disease, which is necrophilia, is not specifically defined to be a crime in the Indian law. Recently, the Karnataka High Court, in deciding a case where a young woman was murdered and raped in 2014, accused the person and found guilty, who was accused by the session court and convicted for the both murder and rape, took this opportunity to give a direction to the court or to the government that a specific law has to be made where the murder charge will absolve the dependent of the rape charges. Now, this person who was murdered, see, if a body on a body, if you're dead body, if you're committing a rape, it can be brought under 297 for infringing the dignity of the corpus. But in that particular case, you cannot put in a charge of rape specifically because rape has been considered to be a wrong against a living individual. So these kind of problems come up because earlier such kind of acts were not being highlighted or brought into the notice of the court or the lawmaking body. but it is the criminal behavior of an individual which comes up at a later stage, and when this is not accepted by the society at large to be something which is accepted act, it is harmful to the society, and therefore it can be considered to be a crime. So, what I want to highlight is that it's not always that you have a definition of crime for every act which is a crime. So, not always you define crime by the law, which is giving you the definition of specific crimes, but also the crime evolves, or the definition of crime evolves according to the behavior of the criminal. So, if a particular person has a criminal behavior and he does something which is affecting the psychology, the society, the feelings, the emotions of the society at large, and the victim himself or herself, then that act can be considered to be a crime, or there is a reason to bring in a question of determining whether that act is a crime or not. So, at the present age, you do not have specific things mentioned as a crime, but crime is developing according to the criminal behavior. Similarly, that which was not a crime before becomes a crime today, and that which is not a which is a crime today may not be a crime tomorrow, because that behavior is accepted by the society. So, crime and criminal behavior cannot be understood separately. If you have to understand what is crime, you have to also study the criminal behavior. So, they go hand in hand, and you have to find out whether a particular behavior is something which can be considered to be a criminal behavior, and thereby, when that criminal behavior is being done, or the act which is being done because of that criminal behavior, can be categorized as a crime or not. So, crime and criminal behavior are the two sides of the same coin. So, it is essential, what I feel at the present stage is that a student of law who goes on to become a judge or a lawyer needs necessarily to be taught not only the law of crime but also the criminology, because it is through the study of criminology that we understand criminal behavior and thereby determine whether a criminal liability can be imposed or not. So we see that overall, at the present context, with the increase in the with the development of the technology, you will find that the crimes are growing, being created, new things are happening, and therefore, to put crime or define crime in a straitjacket definition would not be possible. To define crime, you need to look into the criminal behavior and find out whether that behavior is societally acceptable or positively acceptable, and if the behavior is something which has a criminal characteristic or a crime into it, then definitely that act which has been committed by criminal behavior would become a crime. So today we could not study. What I would end my lecture would be with the discussion that crime is not specifically defined always. Today, at the present situation, to understand crime, you also have to study the criminal behavior of an individual. Thank you. This is all from my side. Over to the moderator.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this valuable session. We have to move further for question and answer session. We have two questions which been asked by the participants. May I ask questions, ma'am?
Yes, please.
First question: how education helped reducing the crime in India?
It's a very pertinent question, but seeing the present day context, we would not say that education alone is a factor which can stop the commission of the crime, because most of the crime, like if you see into the cyber crimes or the online crimes which are doing relating to the money transactions, these are all done by people who are educated. So every aspect has a pros and a con. Therefore education itself cannot be much helpful of preventing the crimes from happening. What happens is it depends on the society and its upbringing. Many things contribute. It's not one single thing which is contributing in the commission of crime. So you have to look it into a very broad perspective, not specifically to a limited factor like education. You're not audible, sir. So you're not audible.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Kindly respond. Another question is, what are the steps to reduce the commonly evolving criminal behaviors?
See, a society cannot function without law. But we have to agree that it is because of law that there is a deterrence created, a fear created, and therefore law is at some point is much more efficient in curbing the commission of crime rather than anything else, because you never know, crime is not, it's sometimes planned, it's sometimes not planned. Some crimes happen at the fit of the moment. So planned crimes can be stopped if there is a proper police system or a proper executive functioning, so that they can trace out what are those situations or where the crimes can be committed. But I think without law, even any other system will not be able to stop or prevent the commission of the crime. Crime is something which is dependent on multiple factors, as I told you. So one agency working will not be able to prevent the crime as such.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this session. On behalf of the entire faculty development team and Faculty of Law Integral University, I convey my deep regard to your today's lecture. And it was very informative and knowledgeable session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.